Aspire Communication provides a wide variety of image, publicity and branding services to established industries and emerging talent. For nearly 20 years, Aspire has worked with a diverse roster of over 120 technology, health, political and talent clients, garnering regional and national awards in the United States. So if you're in need of a publicity and branding services, call 888 405 6730 or visit www.aspirecommunications.com. G'day, Brad Scott here, the host of the highly successful Naked Zombie radio show. Now, not only am I the host of this wonderful program, but I'm also a freelance broadcaster and voiceover artist. So if you're looking for someone to sell your product or be a part of your next voiceover project, and someone whose voice is heard in places like China, Japan, the UK, the USA, the Ukraine, and of course, Australia. Now, I'm easy to contact. You can either go to the contacts page and leave your details, or you can ring my professional studio on this phone number, +61 73103 0566, and let me know what your next project is, and I'll get a quote out to you ASAP. Simple as that. There's no commission structures, there's no third parties, and there's no agents. I will be working solely for you. So get in touch with me if you want one of Australia's leading voiceover talents to help you promote and sell your business or product. Thank you. I'm Brad Scott.
Well, that's enough of that crap. Welcome to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio with your hosts, Travis Shortt and Woodsy.
G'day, it is the 13th of August 2011 and you are listening to the best in Australian pop culture and paranormal radio. I am your host as always, Brad Scott, and you listen to The Naked Zombie. Now, tonight I have a return guest coming onto the show because the amount of emails that I got regarding the last subject matter was just amazing. I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to write in. Again, joining us on the show tonight is Mr. Travis Shortt, who is the documentarian, the host, producer of The Mothman Chronicles Dark Winds. And welcome back to the show, Travis.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be back on The Naked Zombie.
Oh, yes, there's the old Naked. And this is the 21st show. We've actually broken the curse. See, what happens is, I'll just explain to you, mate. In Australia here, if a radio show lasts more than 20 episodes, there's a good chance it's going to survive. So this is a special occasion. This is show number 21. So I'd just like to have you back on a very special occasion because there's a bit of an urgent legend around radio hosts in Australia when it comes to shows.
Well, congratulations for the success and thank you for giving me the special place on this interview.
Oh, of course, mate, of course. They were good mates and people just love hearing the story. Now, our last conversation was, and I'll just take us back a bit, was the fact that the documentary that was done on the Mothman, Dark Wings, like I said, amazing, took 6 years to put together. A lot of people have touched on the subject over the years, but we're also not just going to talk about the documentary again, because we only just even scratched the surface of the last show, but the religious side of it as well. And there's a lot of, especially I guess with the American Indian side of things, Native American Indians, who place a lot of cultural, with the Mothman, I guess is the best way I put it, and I'm trying to explain this as an Australian would to our Australian listeners in that sense, where with different cultures and stuff like that, it's been a large part of their history and society for many years. So how did it all sort of come about, mate, and what's the history side of it?
Well, it was kind of an interesting project from the very beginning. We as I mentioned, I think, in the initial interview, Charlie McCracken and I had been at Area 51 doing research there, and we picked up a book by Jerome Clark that outlined a lot of paranormal events that had taken place all over the world, especially the U.S., and one of the stories that he touched on in that book was the Mothman of West Virginia. And Charlie and I kind of filed our way, and we were at Area 51 in 2000. So 2003, if you move forward to 2003, fast forward a little bit, we were actually in Kentucky working on another film and decided that we were only 90 miles from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. We drove up. We started talking to the residents, some of the original eyewitnesses, people that had been impacted by the collapse of the Silver Bridge. And what we discovered was that we really wanted to tell a story. And as we continued to interview people and talk to them, what we discovered was not only was there more to the sightings, but there was a lot more implication in what was going on by this winged entity that was manifesting itself there in Point Pleasant. And what happened was, when we finished the documentary, it did take 6 years, and when it was finished, when we did the final edit, it was about 4.5 hours long, so we had to do some editing. We cut a lot of things out, and we got it down to about 75 minutes, and there's so much that was left over that we wanted to deal with, that we wanted to talk about, that we decided to start work on a sequel. And in doing that sequel, we wanted to do something we hadn't done in the first one, because in the first one we had approached it very objectively with a journalistic approach. We simply wanted to tell the story. We let the eyewitnesses tell their accounts. As a matter of fact, if you watch the documentary, there's no edit in the interviews. They are done seamlessly. So the person starts talking, I ask the questions, they answer, I go to the next question. There's no edit, so there's no possible way that we could shape and mold what this person was saying. They tell their story. What we wanted to do in the second one was take those same interviews, what these people were saying, and actually try to start making speculation about what Mothman might have been and what the purpose of his manifestations might be. So we started working. Again, it was myself, Charlie McCracken, Matthew Fleming, and then L.A. Marzulli, who's a good friend and also a client through Aspire Communications. He's an author. He's a specialist on angels and demons, end-time prophecy, the Nephilim, all of those things. And L.A. came on to actually start working with us on the musical score for the sequel. But if folks watch the History Channel and they see the new show that's running, Ancient Aliens, L.A. Marzulli is a regular contributor there. They are constantly interviewing him and getting his take on ancient astronaut theory and those sorts of things. And so it was a very nice meshing of expertise and talent for Marzulli to come on and actually address for us the religious implications of the Mothman sightings in 1966 and 1967, and also what was going on in Mineral Springs, West Virginia, with Woodrow Derenberger and the appearance of this entity, Indrid Gold. So it's been a very interesting evolution as the projects have changed, as they have developed, and as we have continued to find out interesting things about these entities that unfortunately were dubbed the Mothman. That really doesn't do justice to what this creature was, but it's been very interesting, and we're looking forward to completing the sequel. We've already set a timeline. We want to have it finished in no more than 12 months. We're not doing another 6-year project.
No.
We're not going to sink that much time in, because we most of the legwork and the structure is there. It's just a matter now of filling in and doing some other interviews with experts, because we do want to look at not just Judeo-Christian religion, which of course has winged entities, but also the Islamic faith, Native American, Mayans, Aztecs, Hinduism. All of these religions have these winged entities, these winged messengers that are constantly appearing and communicating some message to mankind.
So do you think that, sorry to interrupt, but do you think that because it's a winged entity as it's such, and like you just said for with angels and stuff like that, now I think on the last episode we discussed what we thought that the Mothman may be of a demonic sort of presence. Do you think, and this is, I'm just asking an expert's opinion, do you think that, like you said, in Christianity we have angels with wings and they're the good guys? So in other words, is the Mothman, from all accounts, the demon side of it, the part of the horde, if you know what I mean? Right. Do you think it's around that sort of way, or do you think he's just been totally misunderstood over these years?
Well, I think, my personal opinion, when we went into this project, I may have addressed this the last time. Each of us, myself, Charlie McCrank, and Matthew Fleming, had our own kind of perspective of what we were dealing with. Matthew has a degree in environmental science. He specializes in that area, very scientific, very nuts and bolts. He holds to the fact that the Mothman was some type of genetic mutation from the TNT area, the West Virginia Ordnance Works. Charlie is a little more reserved and probably more open-minded. He has reserved making any type of judgment. I went into it after actually talking to the eyewitnesses and getting their actual description of Mothman from their own accounts, their own mouth. And what I walked away with, number one, the description is very human. There's nothing moth-like, insect-like about this entity. It was between 7 and 9 feet tall. It looked like a man. Linda Scarberry, one of the original eyewitnesses, who unfortunately passed away a few months ago. But in her own description is that he was between 7 and 9 feet tall. He looked like a tall, slender, muscular man, ashen in color, with the wings that looked like the wings of an angel and red glowing eyes. That was her literal description of what she saw. Doesn't sound anything like a moth, doesn't sound anything like most of the characterizations that you see of Mothman. What she was describing to me is very much a demonic entity, a fallen angel, a Nephilim, in accordance with the thinking of L.A. Marzulli and Patrick Heron. And the other thing that I walk away from those interviews with is how devastating this event was to these people's lives. There was never anyone that was involved in the Mothman sighting who walked away with a positive feeling, who walked away happy about it, who walked away excited to tell someone that they had seen this, or who ever had anything good happen to them. There was always this trail of tragedy, this trail of death, this trail of pain and oppression and depression and physical abuse, substance abuse and physical problems and mental problems and all of those things in individuals that before the event were very normal, very straight-laced, very, very level-headed, and were, regarded as pillars of the community in many ways, and their lives take this horrible 180-degree turn where that everything now is just in ruins. People that were married when they saw Mothman ended up getting divorced. People who had never touched alcohol or drugs or anything like that, when after this event they didn't know how to cope, they didn't know how to deal, and they began turning to just about everything that you could imagine to try to make sense of what they had seen and what had transpired.
Okay, so basically all these events, and you even said so yourself, that right from the get-go of doing the first documentary that you had nothing but problems and things were just happening. Are you expecting when you do the sequel to have the same events happen? It's already started to happen. This is the question. I'm touching on the funny here, mate, but you remember last time we had nothing but problems doing the interview because everything kept shutting down, which was a real pain. And the simple fact is that, are we expecting these events to happen again?
Well, it's funny because here in the past several months, I've started doing interviews again about the Dark Wings, the first one, and of course the sequel. And I've been on, of course, your program. I've been on with Richard Grund, who hosts a program dealing with spiritual warfare. L.A. Marzulli and I have talked again on his program. I was just invited today to be on another program in September discussing the same thing.
Yep.
Richard Grund, when he and I were talking about this, his team, he has a team of individuals that go to various locations to try to do warfare with these demonic entities, and they go in to exorcise and expel the presence. And he and I were talking on his show, and he asked me, when we started the first documentary, did we do any type of mental and spiritual preparation for ourselves before we did this? And the answer is no, we did not. And the other side of it is, coming from my own personal background, having studied theology, worked on a master's degree in theology, having actually been a minister in the Southern Baptist denomination for several years, I came with a direct knowledge of spirit realm and angels and demons and all of those things. But we literally went in blind, and we went in unprepared, and we went in almost begging for something to happen, and we did. There were a lot of horrible things that happened. As I mentioned, Charlie became very ill with an undiagnosable illness. We, our main editing system, we lost it twice. We had to have it rebuilt on 2 separate occasions. I went through a divorce. There were lots of other things that transpired as all of this was going on, and so you asking me, are we expecting it to happen again? We really hope not.
No,
I don't
that's
think that we could handle anything else coming our way at this particular juncture. But we also take a slightly different approach. We are a little more aware now of what we're dealing with. We are a little more in tune with the fact that we went in trying to be journalists and be objective, and we opened ourselves up for a world of hurt. And we're hoping, and fingers crossed, and praying, and anticipating that this documentary is not going to be as negative on our personal lives as the first one was. But we also understand that what we're trying to do in the second one is that we are actually going to try to reveal and uncover and expose certain things. And in so doing, that is also going to be opening us up for the possibility of worse problems. So the answer is we hope not, but we're also being more prepared and expecting a little more to take place this time.
Yeah, mate, just to cut you off there, actually, this is just weird. Are you picking up any other people speaking in the background at your end?
I'm not.
I am. I'm actually picking up voices in the background. All right, this is weird. All right, okay, strikes again. I'm actually getting sounds like children in the background, and I'm in a closed-off soundproof room, and I'm actually picking it up through the headphones and through the speaker.
That's a little strange.
But it's just, it was the weirdest thing. I could actually hear children in the background, and there's no one home.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, it was picking up like clear as day. I'm going, I wonder if you can hear this. So I'll have to check it out when we get back into it. So look, I'll just say, look, just apologise to our listeners there. We had to just cut off shortly because we were getting a lot of, I was getting a lot of interference through, and this is where, well, we haven't been cut off yet, so which is a good start. This is weird because every time we talk about the Mothman, something in the Men in Black, me and when I did the interview with Nick Redfern, we had same problems. Every time something would happen, it would be we weren't cut off, but there would be like he was being distorted, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Like he kept dropping out and coming back, dropping out and coming back, but we weren't cut off. And then once we stopped talking about and went on other subjects, it was fine and clear. So who knows? This is getting
too
good.
Bizarre.
Oh, look, it's too bizarre. Or maybe I should change the name to Naked Weirdness. No, or something usually happens. And well, that's what makes the show interesting because, like I said, we keep it raw and honest and how it happens during the actual interview. Okay, so we're going into that side. We're going into the Christianity side of everything and stuff like that. Now, with the Native American Indians and stuff like that, because with the township, a curse was put on it. And they assumed the Mothman was responsible. The Mothman is being blamed for the curse. But in the Native American law, as it were, how long has the Mothman for say? Because people assume the Mothman as being, and look, myself, you Google the Mothman and all you get is these images of this big furry dude with wings and red eyes. And he looks like a moth in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? But a hairy Bigfoot with wings, as it were. How does... Yeah, pretty much. And this is probably not correct. And like you said last time, there could be different breeds of this creature, if he is existing, all around the world. And same as we discussed with the Bigfoot. That famous picture that was taken up on the bridge, you know the one I'm talking about. If there's a photo of this thing, big wings sitting on the bridge, and that was just before the collapse. Is that a part of... with the Native American side of it, and that's what I'm trying to get to, would that be the resulting cause of it? Well, would they use the Mothman for that reason?
Well, there is going back, as you mentioned, there was a curse that was placed on the ground by Chief Cornstalk, and there are those that do believe that the appearance of this entity was the manifestation of that, or part of the manifestation of that curse. And in the Native American lore, as we started looking at this, in the Native Americans in America, they have what is called the Thunderbird, which is this entity that they have passed down from generation to generation, this giant bird that is in many of their religious stories and in many of their folklore. And it is described in many ways almost as like a pterodactyl. It has a very prehistoric type feel to it. But it is very central in a lot of the Native American mythology and Native American lore. You look at, in Christianity, of course, we have angels and demons. You and I talked the last time about the possibility that there were multiple variations of this entity, this Mothman in Point Pleasant, and I draw from a religious standpoint the understanding that there are 9 choirs of angelic spiritual beings, and part of those entities, their responsibility, they are called principalities. They are given either, if they are angelic, they are given a protective capacity over certain locations. If they are demonic, then they are given certain leeway in oppressing, possessing, terrorizing those locations. So there's constantly a spiritual battle that's going on between the positive and the negative, the good and the bad, the angels and the demons. In the Islamic faith, again, angels and demons there, of course, the demons are much more referred to as the jinn, the idea of the genie. They are pranksters. They are constantly, they can grant wishes, but at the end they always have a much higher price than what anyone had ever expected.
Yep.
But when you look at, and what we were really interested in looking at is in the Mayan and the Aztec belief, but especially the Mayan, in the winged feather, or the feathery winged serpent god Quetzalcoatl, who was this winged entity who had appeared to the Mayan people and had imparted knowledge and wisdom to them and had disappeared and promised that he would come back. So what we tried to do was literally start looking at all of these religions and how all of them across the world throughout time, even going back to ancient Egypt, Sumeria, Babylon, and looking at how all of them have these appearances, these manifestations of these winged entities, and could be Mothman could he be that for the 20th and the 21st century? Is he nothing more than a manifestation of something that has been around for eons and for ages and ages? And
do you think?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Do you think that the Mothman, and this is coming to the cryptos, right? Do you think he is part of the cryptozoological side of things, or do you think he is more of the mythical side of it?
My personal belief is, and this is kind of an offshoot of cryptozoology, and again, applying my own personal religious understanding and bringing that to it. I actually believe that all of the cryptids, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's Mothman, whether it's the Chupacabra, whatever those cryptids are, I actually believe those are all spiritual beings. I believe they are all some type of manifestation of a demonic entity, and that they are in various physical or corporeal forms. That's my theory. I'm not saying that's Charlie or Matthew or even L.A. Marzulli's. That's my theory. That is the way that I approach each of those particular cryptozoological issues.
And with Chief Cornstarch, when he went out and put the curse on it, now with the Native American law and everything like that, we'll just touch on that again quickly. How many generations that you know about has the Mothman been around for in that sort of side of it with the Native Americans? But the Native Americans also have a big belief in the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot.
The Native Americans, and apply that to the concept of Mothman, then this winged entity, this winged being, has been in their oral tradition for thousands of years. as have many of these what we would consider cryptids or mythological creatures. Looking at Point Pleasant specifically, we weren't able to find any sightings of Mothman that really predated 1960. There were some in 1960, which would be about 6 years earlier than the Scarberry sighting there in the TNT area. But there were sightings in 60 and 62, 65, and then they started in 66, and in 66 they escalated. They became, as I mentioned, 13 months, 5 counties, over 100 eyewitnesses in that time span claiming to have seen this winged entity. As I mentioned, some of them said he was 7 feet tall, some 9 feet tall, some said he looked silver, some said he looked like he had bat wings, some looked like angel wings. There were variations in the description, which is what has led me to postulate that there was actually probably multiple entities that were manifesting themselves in the Point Pleasant area in between 1966 and 1967.
Because from all accounts, from what I understand, is that as the sightings increased, but he was also jumping out in front of cars, approaching people, and all this other stuff. If you Google and read the stuff, this is for the listeners of the zombie. They said if they actually were to research themselves on Mothman, there were so many eyewitness accounts where this creature has actually approached them, has actually got up close to the vehicle, close to the person, never actually attacking anyone or anything like that, but more of a curiosity side of things and getting right up to the windscreens of cars.
Very much so. Linda Scarberry herself talks about after the initial sighting at the TNT area that she looked out her bedroom window one night and saw the entity on the awning roof of her parents' house. There was an outcropping area that had more of an A-frame, smaller roof, and he was there, sitting like as she said, kind of like a bird. His wings were tucked behind him. He was squatted down with his knees thrust up to his chin, had his arms around his knees, and he was just sitting there staring in her bedroom. And there are other eyewitnesses that where, as you mentioned, there was one story where a young mother had her small child in her arms when this entity made its appearance, and she was terrified for herself and for her daughter. There was another incident where a gentleman was driving down the road, and the entity just kind of he saw it there in the field out his window, and he says that the wings opened up, and he there was no run and go, and he just literally levitated and elevated into the air, flapped his wings, and was gone. Just took off like a jet and was gone in a matter of seconds.
I mean, it's surprising. It's the same as I know I'm comparing the Bigfoot and the Mothman in the same sort of category. Has it actually, because I take it his wings are, now this is what I don't know. I've heard a couple of conflicting things from people I've spoken to over the years. Some of his wings some of the wings are like bat wings, but it has a membrane, but others say he has actually like bird wings with the feathers and stuff like that.
Yes.
Isn't there, and also, but there's actually hasn't been any castings of his feet, as far as I'm aware, when he lands or stuff like that, and when he crouches down. Where would, say, in this creature go to, if in that sense, if we can't actually track down, is he constantly hiding in caves, or is he constantly in the forestry, or is he in the tree? This is the thing. Has there been any reports of where he may be nesting, as it were, so to speak? Has anyone actually come across his domain, as it were, and said, I think this is where this thing is?
Well, there is a theory that has been, and John Keel, who wrote the Mothman Prophecies, was the first to posit this, and that is the TNT area actually sits on a system of caves. And it was Keel's speculation that this entity would, when he was not manifesting himself, was hibernating in these caves deep under the ground there in the TNT area. Now, if you're dealing with a flesh and blood cryptid, that is definitely a possibility. There's definitely credence to that possibility. If you're dealing again with a spiritual, metaphysical approach, as what I have applied, then he has not it's not that he has any place maybe in this dimension, but that he is drifting back and forth between his spiritual realm, that domain that he occupies, and the physical world.
Which is, it's the same as the rods. You know what I'm talking about, the rods that people have captured on footage because they reckon they go in and out of dimensions, they move at that high amount of speed. And that's also been brought up with aircraft as well. With that, okay, say he's living in, and I'm going to basics science side of things here. So in that case, if he is living down underground within the caves, that would make him a cold-blooded creature, wouldn't it?
It would, yes.
But if he is wings, like feathers, that means he'll be warm-blooded. I mean, this is the thing, is that there's so many different sides. It's the same as freshwater, saltwater crocodiles, if you know what I mean. They have to adapt to where their things are. I mean, it's just, when you think about it, it's just fascinating, because if there is so many different styles of Mothman out there, from cold-blooded to warm-blooded to ones that probably travel interdimensional, you know, like into their spiritual plane and stuff like that, do you reckon we'll get to a stage where we would have the technology to be able to track these things better? If you know what I mean, do you think we're going to, probably not in our lifetime, but do you think with the science community out there, and I know you also have a bit to do with this, with the people you deal with, are we going to be looking at be able to find the evidence and actually to communicate? Because I know there are psychics out there who reckon they communicate with the Mothman and they can talk to him. Do you think it's possible one day we can do that? Bit of an oddball question, but it's still valid.
No, but I think it definitely is a possibility. I mean, they are making great strides in the technological advances for paranormal investigation. Individuals that are, as you mentioned, there are psychics and mediums that say they have been, communicating with Mothman. The other entity that was manifesting itself during the same time, Indrid Cold in Mineral Springs, West Virginia, was one of those individuals that, supposedly was communicating, with telepathy to Woodrow Durenberger, and was supposedly an extraterrestrial from another galaxy who had taken Durenberger on his ship and had taken him to this planet, and Durenberger had all of these experiences and these epiphanies and revelations that were brought about through Indrid Cold. But again, individuals that that I am working with, as we're looking at Dark Wings, the Dark Messenger, which is the sequel, is looking at this entity, Indrid Cold, as being another demonic manifestation because of the nature of the messages that he was giving. They were all negative. They were always about death. They were always about tragedy. They were always about the sense of ominous, foreboding doom that was coming. They were offering prophecies about the rise of the Antichrist coming out of Israel, about the assassination attempt on the Pope, about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., about the assassination of Bobby Kennedy, and all of these just very, very, gloom and doom type messages.
That's pretty amazing. So basically, poor old Mothman's been issued with the harbour of death, as it were. I mean, that's pretty. I'm sure it's not something he sort of wanted to get, but by the sounds of it, that's the road we're heading down with him. Now we're coming up to the halfway point of the show. It always goes fast when I'm talking to you, Travis. It's I've only got an hour. That's why I wanted to get you back. Now, while we're here on the halfway point, how about we give the first movie, documentary, a plug, and also tell us when the second part, and where can people actually get this from? I mean, I know you've only got a few copies left, and you're looking at producing more, I take it, in the future for people who want the series?
We are, as I mentioned, we are going into re-edits on the first one. What happened when we did the first one, we finished it in 2009, we screened it 3 or 4 different times in Point Pleasant at the Mothman Festival there in September 2009, and it was met with rave reviews, but at the same time, there were individuals that we wanted their critical feedback. What would you like to see? What would you like to have changed? And so forth. Well, we did that, and then we came back, and we went to a theater here in Virginia where Charlie and I reside, and we did another screening there over the course of another weekend in October. And we, again, did a Q&A session after each screening. We took the feedback that the people gave us. We started working on the re-edit, and that's when the editing system crashed for the second time, and we had to have it rebuilt. But in the meantime, there were a lot of other things that had been transpiring. John Kuehl passed away. We had shot a lot of footage with a professional actor who was doing reenactments of Kuehl, and a lot of that ended up on the cutting room floor. So there's a lot of things that we want to go back in that we want to add to this documentary. And so we're in the process of doing that. We've been talking with a couple of other individuals who are helping us with the whole editing process and the re-editing process, and trying to put that together. Right now, if people are interested in ordering a copy, all they have to do is they can just email directly to me, and they can do that. The best email address is Travis Shortt, TravisShortt, VP @hotmail.com, and they can email me there, and we will put them on a waiting list, and we will notify them when the new re-edited first DVD is ready. The second one has gone into pre-production. We're working on the script. We have talked with several individuals we're lining up right now the experts. We want an expert on the Islamic faith. We want an expert on the Jewish faith, one on Christianity, one on Native American. We're wanting to bring in someone who can deal with the Hindu faith, and we want to bring someone in who can deal with the historical significance of the Aztecs and the Mayans, and we want to bring these individuals together and actually start talking about these winged entities. And we're toying with how to do that. We thought about doing it as literally a roundtable discussion, and bring these people into a nice setting and start talking and have me moderate. We've also talked about doing it just as individual on-camera interviews, one by one, getting their story, getting their take. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are. The plan is, if everything it goes according to plan, and of course it probably will not, because it is Murphy's Law, especially when we're dealing with filmmaking and anything in the entertainment industry. But if everything goes to plan, we would like to see the second one completed within 9 to 12 months and have them available as a 2-disc package.
That's right, because I'm looking forward to that myself, and that's right, because I think in our last conversation you're going to let me announce that to the world, weren't you, my friend? Just remind you on that one.
As soon as everything is ready to go, you will be the first person to get to make the announcement.
Look, mate, I'm pretty stoked about that. Don't seriously, I think that's wonderful. Now, have you got? So people want to get the first one. How much is it, mate? Now, what's the price on that? Just so people know.
It's $19.95.
Oh, bargain!
US dollars.
Bargain.
And so that's it's not that bad of a deal. So,
no,
and right now, what
yep.
I've got in stock are a few that have been autographed by all three of the main individuals: myself, Charlie McCracken, and Matthew Fleming. The ones that I have right now have been autographed. We are still selling those as a limited collector's item.
Yep, and you can, so folks, if you want to get your hands on those, you need to contact Travis straight away if you're listening to this, and so you can organise it with him to get payment through and stuff. I mean, for a project that took 6 years and you're only charging $19, I think, mate, that's too cheap in my eyes. I know how much work goes into producing shows, and seriously, that is brilliant. That is a fantastic price. And when the new one comes out, that will also be announced, folks. So please bear that in mind. Keep an eye out for the show on that side of it, because the sequel to the Mothman Chronicles, which is called again, sorry?
Dark Wings 2, The Dark Messenger.
The Dark Messenger. So if you want to listen and see The Dark Messenger, please. Now, is that going to go straight to the DVD side of it, or actually is it going to be in theatres?
Well, it's going to go direct to DVD.
Yep.
We do have talks right now that have been ongoing to actually either have it distributed by a distribution company to theaters, or to go directly to like the History Channel or Sci-Fi Channel and have it picked up and broadcast there. Excellent.
And look, and these are documentaries, folks, and I'm a big fan on proper documentaries. I'm not a huge fan of TV shows with the paranormal, if you know what I mean. I've done one myself. I'm not a huge fan of them. But the documentary side of it, there's just so much like what the Booth Boys have done, what you have done. I mean, this is the true essence of educational programming with the paranormal. This is non-hyped, non-crap. This is fact. These are what these guys do, and these go out and they try and get as much evidence as they can. They spend the time putting it together. Well worth seeing. If you want to learn something, that's how you're going to learn it. Sorry, I'm like that, Travis. You know what I'm like. I get on my high horse and going to say my piece. But this is the thing. This is what makes us, like laymen's in that term, who want to learn about the Mothman and what the Booth Boys did. This is what makes us learn properly about the history side of things. I mean, I'm the biggest one who says I learn all my history from TV. It is true. All right, I get all my history from TV, and I seem to retain it rather than read it in books. I mean, I'm just a typical yobbo too. Okay, mate, what we're going to do is go on to now is that we've touched base and people know where they can get this from, which is very, very important. Now, with Pleasant Point, are they sort of involved in the second sequel to this, or are they sort of staying out of it in that sense? If you know what I mean, I know it was a big thing for them, and it sort of opened a lot of wounds and closed a lot and healed a lot as well. What's the go there?
It did. Well, to answer that, of course, Point Pleasant, we would when the second one's done, we would love to go back and premiere it there at the Mothman Festival, just like we did the first one. As far as us being there on a regular basis, probably not as much as for the first one. We do want to go back and actually try to talk to some of the religious leaders there in Point Pleasant and get their take, because several years ago they erected the statue of the Mothman in the town square for the city of Point Pleasant, and there was a lot of controversy around that. A lot of the ministers from the various churches did not want it erected because if you look at the statue, and it's all over the internet, if you look at it, it is very demonic looking. It has a very ominous feel about it, and a lot of the religious leaders did not want it erected for that reason. They did not want to, deify, if you will. They didn't want to make this image the centerpiece of the town. And we do want to go back and talk to them and get their feelings and get their take on things. But again, this one is going to be much more. Of course, all of the interviews that we did originally, those will be back in the second one. But this one's going to be much more looking at this type of entity's manifestation throughout history and across the world. Not so much just Point Pleasant, but all of these other locations where this winged entity was supposedly sighted.
Okay, when you were doing it, when you were going through it all and stuff like that, I don't know if I asked you in this last question, but have you actually ever seen the Mothman, or have you actually think you may have come close to coming across it or anything like while you? 6 years plus, another 18 months, whatever it is, mate, to do the in total. That's and amount of research that you and the others do. Has anyone in the team come close to thinking that, geez, what was that? Was there something around here, if you know what I mean?
Right. Never has seen anything. Now, I think, we probably dealt with one of the scariest moments we had there in Point Pleasant while we were out in the TNT area, middle of the summer, middle of the day, and we're driving, windows rolled up at the vehicle, air conditioner going. We're just, three of us, it's Matthew Fleming, myself, Charlie McCracken, we're all just talking. We come to a T intersection, to a stop, and there is this horrible, blood-curdling howl, scream, screech, yell that is coming from somewhere. We can't locate its point of origin, but it is literally, reverberating in the vehicle. The windows are shaking. We stop, we roll the windows down, we listen, we heard it. It, lasted for a few seconds, and then it stopped just as abruptly as it had manifested itself. And that was literally a terrifying moment. We literally left the TNT area. We drove back to Point Pleasant. We found the local package store. We went in, bought the biggest bottle of whiskey that we could, and we sat and we started taking shots and just trying to, because literally the hair on the back of our necks and our arms had been standing up. We were terrified by what we had heard. Yep. And the only thing that I can say, and this is one of the things that L.A. Marzulli has addressed, is in his study of the Nephilim, and going back into the Jewish, the Hebrew faith, going back to the writings of Josephus even, that Josephus would, in his studies of the Hebrew tradition and folklore, there were stories of the Nephilim that they were supposed to have had just a horrible yell, growl, scream that would resonate and reverberate and would strike fear into the hearts of anyone who was nearby. Going back to your question, one of the reasons that I am leaning towards the type of, I guess, theory that I'm postulating is There are individuals who have encountered Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and they say the same thing, that they hear this deafening roar, this horrible yell, scream, that literally they cannot forget. And the same is true there in the Point Pleasant area. Now, of course, people will say, well, since you didn't see the Mothman, how can you be sure that it wasn't Bigfoot or Sasquatch that did it? We don't know what made that sound, but that was one of the most terrifying events while we were there. I will say this, and I've never admitted to this one on any interview that I've ever done, but I'm gonna toss you a token.
Cheers, Travis.
We did have what I would consider a possible MIB encounter. We were driving back from Point Pleasant one night, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and empty stretch of road, very straight, nothing in front of me, nothing behind me, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in my rearview mirror, there are headlights that come on, and I mean, I'm bright, and make it very difficult to see. It's reflecting from the rearview mirror into my face. The car speeds up, passes us, gets in front of us, speeds up, zooms away, lose sight of it, lights go off, it disappears into the blackness. Drive along for several miles, never see the car, never saw it on the side of the road, never saw really anywhere that it could have pulled off. Driving along, next thing I know, bright lights in the rearview mirror again. Car speeds up, passes, it's a black car, a dark car, at least as far as I can tell, passes us, gets in front, kills the lights, drives on. That happened 3 times on that drive back on that stretch of road. Now, I don't know who that was, what they were doing, but that is probably the closest that I've ever gotten to an actual, Men in Black type experience.
Wow, I mean that's what I was speaking to Nick Redfern about. That people have reported these incidents from the Men in Black and stuff like that. So, mate, hey, you never know, You could be touching on a subject they're not real keen about. The old Mothman could be working for the MIB. Oh, well, hey, come on! They had Michael Jackson on the show. Well, him Men in Black too. Stranger things have happened. So that's true. That's very, very interesting. That is really cool. Personally, myself, I've never experienced anything like that because I'm pretty boring at the end of the day. Then they're probably not interested in me. But it's very interesting the fact that when you put together the whole concept of the paranormal field as such and how much everything interlinks with each other, if you know what I mean. It's whether it's the UFOs, MIB, whether it's the Mothman or Sasquatch, or whether it's MIB, it's alien encounters, it's ghosts, whether they are trans-dimensional in that sense, where they're actually our future selves coming back and looking at ourselves in certain history events. For people within the paranormal field, and this is just my viewpoint on this, is that's why people are so drawn into it, because there is so much diversity nowadays within the field thanks to modern technology and radio shows and TV shows and programs and everything that's going on. Can you see that the whole genre of the paranormal is just going to keep building momentum? There's all these wonderful books out there and knowledge, and do you think we're on have we reached our peak yet, or do you reckon we've only just touched the tip of the iceberg, and the base of the iceberg, and we've got so far away to go?
I was going to say my personal opinion is we are so far away from understanding and from even the types of things that we are going to start seeing manifest in the coming days and in the coming years. There's a lot of regardless of what you think about the 2012 Mayan doomsday calendar prophecy and all that. I was talking to someone today talking about in 2014 and 2015 there are four lunar eclipses that are supposed to they're lining up throughout that 12-month time span, falling on certain religious holidays. It's never been in this manner in accordance with the Gregorian calendar. It's never been seen before, and there's a lot of things that are ramping up, and I definitely think it's ramping up for something that is going to be very, very spectacular and very phenomenal.
So do you reckon we'll go into we're getting off track, but go into the Mayan calendar. If people who listen to the show who don't know, there's the Mayan calendar reckons we're going to have a massive change what is it, the 31st of December,
Yeah,
2011?
21st.
21st, yeah, of December, leading into a new era, as it were. And from what I understand and what I've read also, they reckon they could be out about 50 years or so as well. So I don't know if it affects me too much, but it's that whole thing is, are we expecting end of the world scenario? That's it, all over Red Rover at the end of the year. I mean, this is a thing that I don't want people to start panicking, please, and sending me emails saying it's all doom and gloom now. It's not. This is just something. It's like what Nostradamus predicted and stuff like this over the years. It's what you read into it. You know what I mean? You can take Nostradamus's work and say, oh, this event, World War One, happened because he predicted. World War Two happened because he predicted. The Chernobyl explosion happened because he predicted it. No, what's happened is that people have taken what he's written and made it suit that time. If you know what I mean. I mean, a lot of it is like that. So I don't want people to start panicking and thinking it's no. I personally don't think it is. I think something's going to happen, to be honest, but I don't think it's going to be bad. It's like when 2000 came along, they were expecting planes to drop out of the sky. Never happened, if you know what I mean, because all the clocks were going back to zero. But this is what I mean. This is what people got to take in. But if you have a viewpoint on this, folks, please get in contact with me. If you look at this website, it's the only place you're going to find the show is on this website. Is that if you'd like to get in contact with me and just give me some feedback, what you think is going to happen at the end of 2012, I'll be very interested in sharing it with everybody else as well. And I'm sure Travis will be quite interested to see. And also, if there's anyone in Australia, now you'll be interested to know if anyone's had experiences in Australia with the Mothman. Is that correct?
I would be very interested. Of course, as I mentioned before, there have been sightings in Mexico. There have been sightings all over the U.S. There have been some Canadian sightings. He was supposedly seen at Chernobyl. You mentioned Chernobyl.
That's right.
Before the meltdown. But I haven't, to my knowledge, I haven't come across any Australian encounters with Mothman. But we would also be interested in any type of cryptid that is indigenous to Australia. Any type of stories that could come from there that we could start looking at for future projects as well.
Yeah, well, it's a good reason for you to come over Australia too, mate. You know what I mean? I've got a spare bedroom, you know that. But and that's the thing, folks. If you want, and also we do have a lot of listeners in the Asian countries as well, which is absolutely. And thank you to all our wonderful emails from our Asian listeners. It's just been absolutely beautiful to have you write in. But so the same thing again. If anyone out there within the Pacific Rim, within the Asian continents, have had experiences of the Mothman in your own countries that we haven't really heard about, please get in contact with me and give me your story and your details, and I will forward them on to Travis for his information and for my records as well. And we might even get you on the show to talk about it. So this is thing, and also anything to do with the cryptozoological side. I mean, we know about the Yowie and stuff like that, but if there's anything else of a uniqueness that we don't, and I'm not talking about someone writes and says about the drop bears and the hoop snakes. We know they don't exist. Thank you. That's an Australian thing, mate. They reckon there's drop bears. You know, that's why campers go missing. These things that look like koala bears drop out of the trees and devour people. I mean, it's just we just use it to scare tourists. But this is the thing. So if anyone out there has got stories of encounters with anything that is really, really unusual within Australia, please let me know and I'll forward these details over to Travis as well. Travis, look, mate, we've got about 5 minutes to go on the show, and every time just flies, as it always does when we talk and the guests on the show. Is there anything you'd like to tell us in the last 5 minutes that is truly unique in what you guys are doing, that is different from every other production house out there when it comes to this? I mean, is there something that you guys have got on the back burner that are that was just going to leave us wanting more?
Well, we there are always things that we have going on. We're very excited about a lot of those. Like I said, the Darklings 2, the Dark Messenger, has been a labor of love for the past couple of years as we started putting that together. And that's something, again, no one has ever taken the perspective that we are and applying it to Mothman. That's one of the reasons that for 4 years I was the keynote speaker at the Mothman Festival every Sunday, was dealing with the religious implications of the Mothman, and that audience grew every year because people were fascinated by this particular approach to trying to understand this event that took place in the 1960s and continues to take place today. We are, as I said, working L.A. Marzulli. We're working with him, helping him. He's got some great DVDs out called the Watchers series. Watchers 1 and Watchers 2 are out right now. We're helping him promote that. It's a great hour-long. Each one's about an hour long. He goes into all of the things taking place, the catastrophes around the world, the major earthquakes, all of those things. Bill Bean, who is one of our clients, Bill wrote a book called Dark Force. It's about going up in a haunted house in Maryland. We're helping him get that book out there for film optioning. So we've got that going on. There's a lot of things that are transpiring for the firm, both as a production house, and one of the things I think that makes us unique is that we do approach things from a journalistic standpoint. We try to be as objective as possible, and because we take a lot of time in actually forming a relationship with the subject matter that we're dealing with. That was one of the things in Point Pleasant. They loved us there because we didn't just come in, do our shooting, and then leave. We stayed, we talked, and we were back, and we were there for 6 years, and we kept talking to people, and we kept getting them to open up and tell us things. And we got stories on camera that no other film crew has gotten because they didn't take the time to ask the questions. They didn't care about anything more than that sensationalistic aspect of the Mothman. And so those are things that I think make us stand out from other firms, because there are other firms out there. There was this past September 2010, there was another Mothman documentary that premiered at the Mothman Festival. And the other people are doing this, but we're proud to say that we were the first to actually go in there and do a feature-length documentary and do it from a journalistic standpoint. That we let the eyewitnesses simply tell their story, and
without editing it to the point
without
where
editing at all. It was exactly as it was being told to us. So we're very excited about that. And of course, if folks like kind of the stuff that I talk about, as you and I talked, I also have my own radio program on Friday night.
Yes, please. Would you like to tell the folks about your radio show, mate? Because I was going to end quickly before that. We are actually having L.A. Marzulli and Bill Bean coming on Naked Zombie as well. We're just in the process of finalising some dates with those two gentlemen, and many thanks to Travis. But we will be having these two gentlemen on, and Travis does have his own show, and please got to tune in this because it's great. Please, I cut you off again. Give us the details.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was going to say, it's internetvoicesradio.com. The owner of that station has been trying for a while to get me to host a paranormal themed show. So I started in July. It's taken off very well. A lot of listeners from around the world. Mm-hmm. But it's called The Short Circuit. It runs every Friday from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern. And tonight, on my next program, I'm actually interviewing Tom Carey, who's a UFO researcher on the Roswell incident. He's been spent the past 15 years researching Roswell. And then I've got a gentleman who came out of Voodoo. That's going to be my second-hour guest. So a lot of good things on the program. But they can check it out, internetvoicesradio.com. They can also, you can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/The Short Circuit. Short has 2 T's. You can also find me on facebook.com/R Travis Short. And you can find me on Twitter. It's at Travis Short with 2 T's. Would love to have folks follow, drop me some emails, messages, anything that they would like to. We're always interested in hearing stories.
Oh, that's true. And on that happy note, I'll just get you to stay on the line, mate. But on that happy note, we have come to the end of the show. Isn't it just flying again?
It has.
I'm just going to have to start doing longer programs. I really do. I'm going to pull my finger out and work it out. And on that, thank you again, Travis, for coming on the show and spending the 21st episode of The Zombie. I'll put some cheering in there. So.
It was my pleasure. It really was. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to be on and to explore the esoteric with you, my friend.
Thank you again, mate. Thank you again. So I'll just get you hold there for a minute. So as we say and I'd like to thank personally my listeners and all the emails that I've been getting from people from around the world who are loving the show and who have given me so many ideas and have contributed. And thank you, everyone. I mean, we do the show because of you guys. That's what it comes down to. And so you have been listening to the best in Australian and paranormal pop culture radio, The Naked Zombie, and always I'm your host, Brad Scott. And like I say each week on the show, have a good night, have a safe night, and if you're out investigating, please look after each other. Good night.